This is the Between Shadow Society Season 2, Part 5. Let's do some housekeeping, actually. So I wanted to give Graves a chance to do non-questions because Graves left early, but I thought it wouldn't be fair to not give the opportunity. You may not get many of these because you weren't here for the whole session, but remind me, did we answer a capital Q question last time?
We actually did this right at the end of last session, and I got 1 XP.
Oh, that's right, because you came.
Because
I
made it back.
You were
I made
here
it back
for
for
that
the.
part. That's right.
Yeah, for the.
Oh, so you're good to go.
Stars
Then.
and Wishes.
Do you need to do anything then? Okay, you're good.
You just need to take away the bullet in the hand condition. Because
that is true.
Yes,
I popped that off.
And then we had 1 clue that I was supposed to define from a vulnerable scene. And then was there a mask?
I don't think
no masks, but I have to describe something that happened to the cathedral.
Yeah, we'll pick that up in the gameplay. The clue as well. Whoever's, I don't remember where that clue's coming from.
It was one I was supposed to make from a vulnerable scene, but I would be happy to just have a clue show up from the list because I don't have a specific idea.
I'll do that then. It's fine. Did you have one of the threats in mind, or do you want it from?
I suppose. Well, we've answered the question on Kilburn Abbey, so I guess Sally No Face.
Okay, we'll do. All right. And remind me what the scene was so I can pick the clue out so it makes sense. Sorry, viewers, we would normally be doing this off mic, but I'm being ambushed by things we didn't do last time. What was the vulnerable boom?
Blakely had helped put the arm back on.
Yeah, Blakely's first aid.
Okay. Got it. Okay, I got it under control. Okay, cool. Let's do some recapping though. So threats. The Demon of Kilburn Abbey is still an active threat. It has been waiting for you to come. Anyone to come and take care of the demon. Some keeps trying, but the other hunters keep not showing up. Let's talk about Sally No Face. You currently have 3 clues on various complexities, all of them different ways of stopping Sally No Face. One little thing worth pointing out is that Blakely burned down the exhibit in Whitechapel, which was interesting. The Waitley camera, you currently have no clues. However, a significant character from that threat, Bert Broadswell, showed up last time, and I have a feeling he's going to be in the papers very soon, because in our stinger scene, viewers of the video, if you didn't watch the stinger scene, go back and watch it. In our stinger scene, Bert did not have a fine ending. But in any case, that's where things are at with those. I do want to point out on the Waitley camera that there's just for everybody looking at the character sheet, it's actually just 1 question with 2 opportunities, but it's, even though it shows up as 2 there, it's actually just 1 question. Okay. So looking at the hunters, Miss Blakely, as ever, is free of conditions. Mr. Graves is marked by Lord Cadwallader still. Some still has a disappointment and a horror, and Miss Everly Gray is clear. You guys are all basically reset, essentially, on conditions. So that's great. If there's nothing else, let me tell you that let me go ahead and give you the clue that some would have stumbled upon when having his arm reattached in a surprisingly, relatively speaking, tender scene, I think. Because if you recall, in that same scene, Sally actually showed up, right? She was in she showed up at Hargrave House briefly, just to sort of taunt the group a little bit. And I think you will find something that she dropped on her way out, perhaps on purpose, perhaps inadvertently. But what she dropped is a piece of paper with no, change that. What she dropped is a plant, a sample marked Nerium oleander, in a little tiny pot wrapped with a wax paper. It looks like she either had it on her person or she dropped it on purpose, or she dropped it either on purpose or not. But in any case, you have this little plant, Nerium oleander. If anybody has even a passing familiarity with botany, you'll know that it's a highly toxic plant. And so,
And they're really pretty.
Yeah, indeed. Good. Let's talk about the day phase. No new threats because we have 3 active threats currently. And so we'll just do scenes. Mr. Over the Grave, did you have a thought for a scene you wanted to do?
If this is the morning after,
It can be.
yeah. Basically, she is going to get dressed up and get ready to go visit the Society Obscura to just check out whether the open house is still on or not. Just kind of make her way and investigate.
Love it. The Society Obscura is always fun. Let's go Graves. Any thoughts on what to do today?
I was also interested in heading there. I think I'm all about trying to resolve the Kilburn Abbey tonight, but for the day, yeah, investigating the camera was my goal.
A trip to the Society Obscura as well. Miss Blakely.
Still mad at Sally for trying to cut off my face. So I think, I already burned down the exhibit. What else can I do? Suppose I could try and find out who Sally is.
In Sally's defense, she said she was going to take someone who was already very beautiful and raise you to an even higher level of beauty, a divine beauty.
You're not selling me on this. Like, good pitch. Almost had me, but no. I suppose I am going to go to, goodness. Clara Yarborough's tenement house. A tenement house.
If you're looking for Sally options, also, you might check out. I don't think anyone's gone to the mortuary yet, have they?
Oh, we haven't.
To look at Clara, I don't think they have.
Yeah, I think I'll do that rather than go to a tenement house.
Some?
This is the same mortuary that was from the other threat. Like, will the same doctor be there?
This is an East London mortuary, so it would be. Which one are you referring to? Which threat was it attached to?
Oh my goodness!
Petersburg was Gateskill or Gate.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, no, this would be a different one.
Okay. Oh shucks! I wanted to follow up with that guy. Oh well, I'll go to this mortuary. I feel comfortable in those places.
Sounds good. Let's start with the Society Obscura. So the Society Obscura is I'm gonna look where it's actually located. I don't recall. I promised I wrote this. I don't even say what part of London it's in. It's a townhouse though, probably somewhere on the western side of the city, and it looks like just a normal residential home, except for the fact that there is a brass plate near the front gate that says Society Obscura. So it's almost like a kind of quasi-public place, but you still have to like ask for admittance. But in any case, what do you do once you are dropped off from the cab, Mr. Graves, Miss Everly Gray?
Does it look like there's anything going on still?
From the outside, it seems pretty unremarkable. I mean, the gate is not locked. You can go into the gate through the front garden and go up to the door. No one will stop you.
Haven't been here before, but I worry about trying to let you go in alone, Graves. No. You know what? Because I am dressed up, and not as my usual self, let's take a different approach. I march up to the door, ring the bell, and affect a cousin of mine. And then if the door opens, then I'm making like I'm talking to Graves. And it's what the wonderful thing that happened at that lovely party. Oh my God. I cannot believe how it went. And
Graves, the person who opened the door, assuming you're there, Graves, is a young man. He is very lovely. He is dressed in a short tunic and has an olive leaf crown on his head. He looks like Hermes or Dionysus or something, right? And his body has been rubbed with gold pigments. And he says, can I help you?
And Artemis turns to Graves and goes, "Oh, I feel so overdressed. I should have worn my hunting outfit, the toga. I'm sorry.
Are you here for the Olympus sessions?
I had heard that there was an open house. Didn't know if it was still going on and we could participate."
Oh, well, the open house is over, but we are in the middle of some very, very exciting compositions in the Olympus room, and, well...
My name happens to be Artemis Everly Gray, I think.
Perfect.
Yes.
It was destined, I think.
Is it all right if my friend here comes as well?
Yes.
His name is not Grecian, by the way. It's just... Is that all right?
Prophet Graves at your service.
However, we'll come in, and he ushers you in, and he asks you to sit down on a bench, and he says, "Let me go check with my employers, the Abernathys. They run the Society Obscura. They might need, a Helen and a Paris." And he goes off, and he leaves you in this kind of entry hall, and you see doors on the ground floor with labels over the door. For example, one of the rooms is labeled the American West Room. The other is labeled the Jungle Room, and things like that. What do you do?
Fascinating. I wonder if we have time to poke our noses in a little here.
I absolutely want to. I mean, this is damned curious. But I'd be afraid of missing our host's proposal for being Helen and Paris. Be prepared to take the phlegmatic facade off a little bit, Graves. I think this is that kind of party.
Yes. Of course, posing as Paris does not reflect so well on my character, perhaps, but
you did steal away Helen of Troy.
I wonder what Miss Blakely would think if she knew someone else was being Helen of Troy right now.
Sorry.
I wonder if Miss Blakely knew Helen of Troy. That's an interesting question too.
Or was Helen of Troy?
There you go. I wasn't going to say it, but yeah, I was thinking good. Okay. Well, so you do have a minute to poke around if you want. What do you do?
Do you want to look in some of these rooms?
Yeah.
While we are somewhat here.
Let me put my ear to the door, at least.
As best you can tell, these rooms are empty.
And he went upstairs?
Upstairs. The Olympus room, of course, is in the highest point in the house.
Of course.
Makes sense.
Let's take a peek in this American West room. Could be fascinating, could be a complete romp, but we can at least look.
Certainly, let's put our noses in. And Graves will just open the door and take a look, curious.
The American West room, the curtains are parted enough to let some light in, so you can kind of see in what you're looking in. It looks like almost like a dim, dusty cowboy saloon, Western saloon, wood tables, a piano. There are big, heavy canvas backdrops with like murals painted on them, right? This is clearly a room used for artistic photography set in the American Old West. Paint the scene, everyone. This room is not quite right. What feels off about it?
Everything is either oversized or undersized compared to what it actually should be. Like the hats, because there's tons of cowboy hats around. They're either too big or too small. There's nothing the right size. It's very strange. Sure Shot would have a fit.
The piano that they would supposedly have in a saloon for sing-alongs or whatever, it's not like a solid upright or a spindly spinet piano. It's actually like an ornately carved harpsichord in the corner.
They couldn't get like a proper piano. It's good. Mr. Graves, anything unusual?
Yeah, I think on one of the murals there is what is supposed to be some buffalo on a plane in the background, but whoever painted it has obviously never seen a buffalo.
Never seen one.
They look much more like just cows.
Yeah, it's good.
Behind the faux bar, instead of like having bottles of liquor or whatever, it's just bottles of sarsaparilla lined up all like next to one another instead of like any variety or anything else like that.
We'll come back to the scene in a moment. Mortuary. We'll say Peter Jacobson's there. He does shifts at all the body dumps in town. I don't know if he knows either of you though. Does he know either of you?
If this is the same gentleman,
because he knows some, right? Yeah.
We had a conversation.
Yeah. When he sees you come in, are you just going in through the front door, or are you taking some other approach before I assume here?
I think we're just gonna walk right in. That's
Okay.
Blakely's deal.
Yeah.
When he sees you, he says, Beauty and the Beast.
Some is in like high spirits, like he's kind of latched on to Miss Blakely because she helped him, and that feels like a new and exciting thing. And he's going to the mortuary where this gentleman who was so interested in him was located before, so there's nothing that can get him down. He's just like, hello, you remember me?
He says, well, you are a very, very fascinating subject. I mean, you do look as if one of my clients just rose up from the slab moments ago. I say that with all sorts of affection. I do spend all my time with these, people.
You're too kind.
Thank you for having us, Doctor. Well, just to put it bluntly, we need to take a look at one of your clients.
Oh, this is the we're saying this is the doctor from who brought Kilburn Abbey to your attention. Gastrell,
Yes.
right? Yeah, Gastrell. Okay. That's the one that Graves and some took.
Right.
Like when Graves and some were running
driver.
we were running away from the assassins. That's right. So got Dr. Gastrell. Okay, that's who it is. I just want to make sure I had the right character in my head. Yeah, then that's exactly something Dr. Gastrell would say. So that's very in character for him. He says, Yes, well, I don't remember sending out invitations, but it's a public place to an extent. And also, I don't normally work here. I'm just here, poking around, doing a little bit of research. They let me do that from time to time. They're very accommodating, the mortuary workers of London town. I think they bend over backwards for anyone who's breathing.
Well, I'm very happy that you're going to accommodate us. Could you please direct us to the body of Clara Yarborough?
Clara Yarborough, yes, yes, yes. I wondered if perhaps that might be something you lot would be interested in, because I did a little bit of research and I learned that your colleague, Mr. Graves, who I had the pleasure of meeting, was, a former tenant of Miss Yarborough. Strange and fascinating coincidences all around with you, group.
Yes, well, don't think too much about it,
I shall
if you
not.
understand my meaning.
Luckily, they have not put her in the ground yet. And he goes and he will pull out the body. And as described in the paper, she has no face. And the paper doesn't really capture the exceptional work that was done, though. The cut is beautifully precise. And if not for the fact that her face is just a drying out mass of muscle and popped eyeballs and bared teeth, she would look serene.
Oh, Miss Blakely, Doctor, I find in my short time that there is a beauty in death and a beauty in a thing well done. But there is something grotesque about this.
Well, we certainly agree on the last part.
Well, I'll tell you, if you wait around a body long enough, give them time give the corpse time for the gases to start to fill up in the husk, and I think your opinions on the beauty of death might be somewhat altered. Nevertheless, I'm sure you're here doing some sort of ghoulish, macabre work for Mr. Graves, and I think that we all have sort of an understanding, and so I'm not going to stop you, but you should hurry, because I hear that DI Pettigrew is making the rounds today.
Goodness. Assuming we work for Mr. Graves. What is this? Yes, well, let's take a look. And Blakely is going to lean in, looking very closely at this body. Oh, I do see what you mean, Sam. This is quite a clean cut. Certainly much better than anything Dr. Noble could have done.
Just drive by throwing shade at Dr. Noble. Who is Sub's mother?
Sam's in a good mood. Nothing's gonna get him down. Don't worry
The
about it.
layers of insult are very thick here. So who's this sounds like an information that is happening.
Yeah.
So you can take that with reason if you want, Miss Blakely.
Blakely the reasonable.
We'll get dice on the table and we'll go back to the other scene.
Yeah, that's a 4.
Very good. We shall come back to that in a moment. The American West Room. Miss Everly Gray, what do you do?
Actually, step into the room and then see if there's, obviously it's like a set. So, to kind of examine if there's anything that... Did we actually see in the picture, like, was Penelope Levy in a set like this?
Fantastic question. And yes, but the decorations were extremely weird, like strange geometric shapes, pyramids and cubes and weird things like that. It didn't have any it wasn't a historical setting. It was some kind of alien setting.
Shoot. because I want to find that set. That's the one I'm most curious about. Shoot. Can we tell if this room has been used recently?
Go ahead and make the information move with reason.
And of course, who forgot to pull out the dice? No, that was not rolled. That is 7.
We'll come back to, or I'll give you your clue in a moment. The complication is going to be that just the houseboy shows up and kind of cuts short your exploration. I do want to check with Mr. Graves, though. Mr. Graves, what are you doing?
We know what room, what kind of setting the photograph was taken in, or
Well, just based off the photograph itself, it's just kind of like a strange, like you just saw like strange shapes in the background, like pyramids and spheres and just kind of like abstract.
Interesting. Do any of the rooms, going back out into the corridor, do any of the rooms have a label above them that's anything like, geometric or
Something that might give you a hint as to where she was,
right?
Where the photo was taken.
Exactly.
Make an information move with reason.
Okay, let me see remind myself what my reason is. Okay. I rolled snake eyes, so that's a 3.
I'm checking with Ms. Everly Gray first. Ms. Everly Gray, the thing that sticks out to you in this room is something that does not seem like it should belong, even for like a group of eccentric Brits who don't know anything about the American West. This stands out. It is a small pyramid about palm, with the width of your palm, and incredibly warm to the touch. The ambient temperature of the room would suggest that it should be cold. It's metal, but it's not, it's warm. That's your clue. And the complication is just that the houseboy is coming back downstairs and kind of cutting short your ability to keep searching any further. If you're okay with that, then we'll just let it ride. You can always use Janus Mask, of course, but
Janus Mask.
go ahead and mark it. You get to keep poking around. Check on Mr. Graves, and then we'll cut away. Mr. Graves, you got a miss, which is very intriguing in this place. You can feel the entity that is in the camera, because that's what Mr. Waitley thought the camera was. The camera was possessed by something, or in fact was an entity. You can feel it. It is in the house and it is everywhere. It's watching you and it's incredibly powerful. You can sense its power like immediately. Take marked by the entity as a condition, but otherwise you get to continue your exploration of the place. We'll come back to it. Son, what are you doing while Miss Blakely is looking at the body?
I think I'm looking at it and talking with the doctor without like looking away. But
he says, "You are truly a truly fascinating person, Sam, and I say that as someone who has an interest in medical wonders. For example, your skin, well, it is, what's the right word? Pallid and gray. It doesn't really have the blush of warmth to it. And yet you are clearly alive. You are clearly walking amongst us. You have things dribbling from you.
Yeah,
One
turning my
wonders
most
where
sincere
from.
smile
Yes.
on him, like looking away from the body and towards him. You are gracious to pay me so much mind and so much heed.
Some, I have a
Your
proposition
eyes-
for you. I'm giving a lecture to a group of other doctors, inspiring doctors, and I wonder if you might agree to be the subject of that lecture, or at least a subject of that lecture, and indeed appear before this esteemed group of medical academics, so that we might understand you.
Well, I suppose I could prepare something, some narrative or quip, if you need an additional speaker.
I don't think that will be necessary, Sam. All you really have to do is just sort of stand there. You might have to take off your coat and shirt there, if that's all right.
Oh, that would be a little bit uncouth, I believe. But I suppose I could attend. When is this event?
In 2 days. And he will give you the time and the details. He says, I was originally going to speak on a somewhat related topic until I met you and Mr. Graves, and now my thinking has been going in all sorts of different directions. And in fact, I think that you being here right now is providence.
Do you?
There's so many strange things going on in the city right now, Sam. There's the matter of the Abbey, the girl, you, people being shot in the streets.
You do keep your ear to the ground.
Well, I just think that we are on the cusp of some sort of new learning, Sam, and I want to be right there at the tip of the spear, mixing my metaphors, but you know what I mean.
I think I do know what you mean. Have you ever visited the place I call home? Have you ever been to Hargrave House?
The name is familiar to me. Is this some sort of organization that Mr. Graves runs?
There is perhaps some truth to all of the things that you say. You observe so much, and yet you see only the edges of things. It's truly remarkable.
I'm being reminded in the
not-
chat that he might have been an associate of Hargrave House. I think that might be the case because he came to you. I think I have that wrong. Let me just look at this character again before I keep going. Bartholomew Gastrell, blah, 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 blah. Oh, he is an old, oh, you're right. Sorry, we'll back up. We'll retcon that. He's an old friend of Hargrave House. Sorry. Retcon. Yes, well, of course. I mean, I know, I mean, actually knowing that, I imagine you would probably approach the scene differently, David. Knowing that he actually, because he's the one who brought Kilburn Abbey to your attention. So, yes, he knows Hargrave House well.
Right. You'll have to forgive me. I'm new around the premises.
Yes, well, the work that Hargrave House does, of course, is fascinating, and it gets more and more fascinating every day. I think that whatever's going on in the city, you lot must be connected to it. But that is perhaps a mystery for another day, and perhaps none of my business. What is my business is medical mysteries, and I think you are one. And I would love for you to come and meet with my colleagues.
I believe that could be arranged.
Did you know a Dr. Noble at Hargrave House?
Blakely scoffs.
I had some acquaintance, yes. Why?
Oh,
Did you know her well?
yes, yeah, she was brilliant. Probably one of the most brilliant medical minds the city has ever seen. She could have taken her place at any of a number of esteemed academies, and yet she chose to go do the work that you do over there in Belgrade.
She was working on something that your colleagues might be very interested in. But she kept it quiet.
Yeah, maybe she wasn't completely happy with the work or the research. Maybe it wasn't quite time for it to be shown. I know how that's like. When you're in academia, you have to make sure everything is just right.
Perhaps so. That might just be the case.
And at this point, Clara Yarbrough turns her head and stares at you with her popped, exposed eyes. And her jaw unclenches, and words just come out that say, "And when are you going to come pay me a visit at the Abbey?"
Goodness.
You're taking the condition marked by the Demon of Kilburn Abbey unless you put on a Janus mask.
Who is I am or
Miss Blakely.
Oh, sorry. I thought that was for some.
No, it was for you. No, no, turned to you and said, "When are you
Yeah.
coming to the Abbey?" Demon's seen everyone else.
I'm trying. I can't even think of what Blakely would do here. I think she'd just be very shocked. I suppose.
Just take the condition. It's fine.
Yeah.
There's no, there may be no reaction. It might be a cut.
Yeah.
But marked by the demon.
Yeah, some will slide the thing very quickly into its place and slam the thing shut.
Good. Let's cut back over to the Society Obscura. Well, so let's have the scene now. Graves and Miss Everly Gray, you still have the run of the place, it's at least downstairs. And Graves, you're newly aware of the entity in the house.
Artemis,
What's wrong?
I sense a presence here. A very powerful presence. I think there may be something to the suspicions about this camera, or something going on here at least. We should tread very carefully.
Underneath her dress, there's like slit pockets, so she has her staves with her. Just trying to think if it would be like the same type of entity as if it was the demon. Does it seem malign, Crawford?
I would say, Crawford, that it feels unknowable. It doesn't operate on the same moral plane that you do.
It's hard to say, Artemis. These creatures these beings think in ways unlike us. To say I have no impression of its intentions here.
Well, Miss Levy is missing, so it obviously has some intention of, well, disappearance? I think we should try to find that room that has that set that was in the picture. I don't sense anything from my weapons, so it either doesn't recognize or it is not malign in the sense that I know it. I think we should keep looking.
I will
Perhaps
tell
it's
you
all-
the names of the rooms on the ground floor. There is, of course, the American West room. There's the Jungle room. There's the Maharaja's Palace room. And there is the Astral Plane room.
That seems to be the most likely. What say you, Crawford? I think we should check that one out.
I think so too.
So
Let me go first.
Okay. Do you sense the presence being stronger as we approach?
I would say not anymore so.
No, but nevertheless, allow me. And Graves opens the door and looks inside.
This room is a strange room painted in grays and silvers and dreamy purples. Paint the scene, everyone. There are objects arranged all over the room that seem to be from another world or time. Please describe one.
A very tall, well, tall for the scene in the room, tall black obelisk with no discernible markings or buttons or anything. It's just very solid, very shiny, and very sinister looking.
Love a big black obelisk. That's a classic.
A jar. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go.
A jar with a floating in some kind of liquid. It is an eye, but it's an eye that is unlike the eye of any creature of Earth. Its coloration and the shape of the pupil and iris are just curious, like it's tricking, almost like it's hard to perceive exactly what shape or color it is.
On a small desk, there's a easel you would place a small picture on, but instead of a picture, there's a thin plate of metal. Nothing on the back of it. It's just a thin plate of metal, but on it is a clock face with a functioning clock. It's perfectly flat. It's perfectly smooth.
In one of the corners, just abandoned because nobody knows what it does or why it's there. Upon closer look, it looks just like a little black rectangle, a box even. Closer look, it's a little digital clock.
Nice, good.
Nothing to plug it into, so it doesn't work, but just sitting abandoned in a corner.
Good. We'll come back to the scene. Dr. Gastrell says, "Is everything quite all right?" I don't think he heard the demon speak.
Yes, things are fine. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for your quick action. This is quite not what I expected.
It's just a bit of the processes you were just describing to me, Doctor. The gas is leaking forth from it. It seemed best to put it away before offending Our Lady's sensibilities.
From the entry hall adjoining the room, you hear, hello, Dr. Gastrell. I'm told you're here." Dr. Gastrell says, "Ah, our good friend."
Yes, indeed. Now, it is. It would be in our best interest to not have a lengthy conversation with our dear friend D.I. Pettigrew. Is there a back door that perhaps my colleague and I could escape from?
Yes, I think all three of us will take it, and he and he will take you out the back.
Yeah, he's
Well-
not supposed to be there.
Yeah, probably not.
I'll actually linger for a moment.
Oh, with DI Pettigrew?
Yeah.
Do you leave with Dr. Gastrell, Miss Blakely?
Yes, but I'll waiting outside.
Yeah, sure.
for-
Yeah. DI Pettigrew comes in and says, hello, is there anyone working here? What are we
As
going to do?
he's-
What are we going to do if one of the inmates tries to escape? And he sees you and says, oh my God, I think one of
Well,
the inmates
hold on.
has tried to escape.
Before he sees me, and as he's coming into the room,
Okay.
I will cause every light in the place that's flame light to
Oh.
reduce by half.
Oh, nice. Is that one of your powers?
My
Oh,
Titan's
nice.
Ember.
Oh, yes,
Mhm.
that's good. So you're making all the lights go dim.
Yes.
And
Oh.
so then what?
As he comes in, he sees this really dim room. Oh, I'm so sorry. Inspector, is that you?
Yes. Well, who is that there? I can't quite make you out.
Oh, come now. You have to recognize my voice. You're so good at the details. The details.
It's like, well,
It's me, the mortician.
he's like, well, yes, that is true, but I don't remember your voice.
Oh, it must be I'm catching a cold or something. I best stand a ways off. I'm so sorry. It seems we're having a bit of a plumbing issue. The lights, they're so dim. I don't know if there's anything that I can help you with here today until I can get that fixed. Though perhaps if you tell me what you're looking for, tell me the details, and I'll tell you how the body might help you in your investigation. I did have a good look at it myself.
He says, and I think this is probably a day move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail here?
He might realize who I'm not supposed to be,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to pump him for information using my Quicksilver voice.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm going to get through the day move first, then we'll do the information move. Go ahead and roll with presence.
All right. Am I still getting advantage for Quicksilver voice? You're a gifted conversationalist, but only if they can't see you. Take advantage on any rolls associated with actions. All right, let's give it a go. You said with presence?
Presence, yeah.
Okay. So we have 8 on the dice. And what is my presence score?
0.
0, so 8.
Per the move, I have to tell you how your actions leave you vulnerable, and you can choose to back down or go through with it. The way your actions will leave you vulnerable is the scene will proceed, but a small part of your body will fall off, and he will pick it up. You can proceed with this, or you can just go out the back door with Miss Blakely.
I really want to know what he knows, so I will risk this.
We'll come back to it. You're in the astral plane room. Graves, Miss Everly Gray, very strange room indeed. All kinds of strange things in here that you don't recognize. What do you do?
Curious if I can kind of see any resemblance to what was in any of the shapes in the photograph. Can I figure out if this is the room?
I think, yeah, you can make out enough things that you can be convinced that this is where the photo was taken.
So I wonder if I can sense anything about, if this is where Penelope Levy was disappeared from. Is there any kind of trace in the actual astral
Hmm.
position of this room, of of some kind of breach of the veil, as it were? Is there any way I can feel that?
You can do a thinning of the veil. You don't have your tool, the St. Petersburg mirror, with you necessarily, but maybe any mirror-like object will work.
Did you bring your smoky hand mirror from your personal quarters?
I certainly might have done, yes. So thinning of the veil is about a glimpse of the future.
About the immediate future. You can get
Right.
a clue, though, if you roll well enough. Or you could just do an information with sensitivity. I'll take that as well.
Yeah, I think that's more what I was angling for here.
Yeah, you can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see if I can roll better than last time. 7.
And Ms. Gray, or Artemis Gray, or Everly Gray, what are you doing?
While he's looking for astral evidence, I'm going to look for physical evidence, seeing if another one of those metal pyramids or something similar to it is in this room.
Take the information move with reason.
8.
Good. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and pick up the scenes. I want to pick back up with Graves and Ms. Everly Gray. Clues. Graves. You are suddenly quite aware of the very strong smell of warm spices in this room. Cinnamon, clove, mace, that kind of thing. There's no apparent point of origin for this fragrance, but it is very, very strong suddenly in the room. That's your clue.
Artemis, do you smell?
You
do
do
smell
Artemis.
that?
I do or I don't?
You do.
Oh. What is that?
Spice? Cooking? Or an exotic market, but I don't see where it could be coming from. What do you make of that?
For some reason, I think of Marrakesh. Huh. We are nowhere near that.
And Ms. Everly Gray, you got a mid result on information move as well, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah. To make the scene even weirder, you are presently joined by a large albino peacock just walking around in the room. And then a voice. Ah, there you are. It's the houseboy. He
Hello.
comes
I'm
into the
so
room.
sorry. We just got too curious for words. I'm so sorry.
He is no longer dressed in his Greek god outfit. He's now dressed in like puffy pants and vest and turban, like a character from 1001 Nights. And he says, yes, the Abernathys would love to have you up in the Olympus room. When I told them the circumstances of your arrival, they couldn't wait to meet you. So please, after me.
Absolutely
And he says,
wonderful.
oh, and he sees the peacock and says, Duquesne. And he goes and gets Duquesne and ushers Duquesne into a cage that is like a crystal cage. And he closes the door.
Has there been a change of theme? I see your costume is.
Oh, yes. Well, we're going to be taking some photographs in the Maharaja's palace room a little bit later today, and so I wanted to go ahead and get in costume. But you haven't missed the Olympus shoot. Please, please.
And we follow him up.
Your clue is that peacock in the cage, by the way. Albino peacock in a crystal cage. He takes you up and takes you into the Olympus room, where you see quite a large number of people all milling about, hanging around in between photographs. You see a camera set up, and I think as you're walking in, you probably hear the sizzle and pop of the flash powder, right? Everyone there is dressed like a Greek god, and the room is decorated to be like a temple on Mount Olympus. And indeed, we have a paint the scene question here, but only if one of you has the cosmic passage marked. Do either of you have the cosmic passage marked?
I don't.
I definitely know I don't.
You don't get the question then. So, what, I think the Abernethys, the aforementioned Abernethys, they will come and approach you. They are Porsha and Cyrus Abernathy. Porsha is wearing a sort of semi-sheer black toga situation, and her hair is braided to look like, like a crown. And her husband, Cyrus, is wearing a very form-fitting white bodysuit, tight in all the right places, with silver cords wrapped around the arms and legs and neck. And he's just he takes off a mask to come and greet you. The mask
I say out of the corner of my mouth, it's like, follow my lead, Crawford. Oh, it's so wonderful to meet you. And she actually reaches out her hands to try to take, theirs.
Porsha says, yes, darling, but and who are you again?
I am Artemis Everly Gray. Emphasizing my last name. I had heard about this wonderful open house, and I apologize. I realize I'm overdressed for the occasion. It was just, I'm sorry, it's just a mistake. I had only heard.
Quite all right, I assure you, dear. No worries at all. We've just wrapped, we're just getting ready to wrap our little scene here. Were you hoping to have some photos taken?
If that was a possibility, absolutely. But I don't want to cause a fuss. If there's a different scene, I'm perfectly happy to see what that is. Your houseboy had said that it was the Olympus scene, and considering my name,
He says,
as you can see.
She says, yes. And she looks and turns to her husband Cyrus and says, well, we weren't expecting visitors, but we're always very excited to share the art of photography with anyone who is interested. And certainly, well, have you had a chance to be photographed much, Miss Everly Gray?
No, unfortunately not. How about you, Graves?
I have not, but
Oh, splendid. It is.
if I'm not mistaken, Hermes and Hera stand in front of me and Artemis by my side. This seems like too good an opportunity to pass up.
She says, well, we are certainly happy to share the very distinct pleasures that come with photography. The camera, you see, well, it sees us and then it reveals us. I'll warn you, many people don't like what they see in the image because they know it is the truth. One cannot hide from the lens, no matter how hard one tries. Are you ready for that sort of intimacy, that sort of exposure?
I have heard that the camera never lies. Yes.
does not. It does
Most
not.
intriguing.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. It would be a quite new experience, absolutely. I, again, don't want to cause a fuss, just want to, it sounded like fun. So.
Cyrus says, we are actually undertaking a very exciting new project tonight in the Louis XIV room. I think you two might be perfect for the composition. Tell me, do you own a powdered wig by chance?
I do not.
I
Porsha
believe we
says-
could lay our hands on one though.
Porsha says, no matter. We can find something for you to wear. Come by tonight. We shall recreate the court of the Sun King. It will be eye-opening.
I'm sure it will be. Sounds exciting.
Sounds
Is there anything we
delightful.
can do right now? Again, not to fuss, but...
Porsha smiles and says, oh, we're just about to take a lunch break. And I have many ideas racing through my brain. I'm sure Periwinkle will be happy to show you out for now. And
Periwinkle?
the houseboy Periwinkle comes back. He says he comes back and he is now dressed he's essentially dressed like a saloon girl, like a frilly gown, and
You are the quick change artist, aren't you?
He doesn't have his wig on yet or anything. He's like, I forgot we're not doing the Maharaja's Palace shoot yet. That's okay. I'm ready to go now. And Porsha says, our guests might be joining us this evening, but for now, would you mind showing them to the door? And Periwinkle says, of course. And all of the Society Obscura have just formed a sort of strange flank of people. Oh, strange wall of people. Like a wall, basically, like pushing you out. Mr. Graves, they got a little suspicious of you at the end there. What do you suppose gave it away?
I think that neither of us or certainly Mr. Graves didn't have a good excuse for being there. It was perhaps a little obvious that we were fishing for information.
I think as you leave, you will notice a newspaper reporting the death of Bert Broadswell. A name that's just a name to you, Mr. Graves, but quite a lot more to Ms. Everly Gray.
Guess he sought some services after all.
Let's cut over to Sun. Wrap this day phase here in a bit. Sun, you are working your quick silver tongue. Make the information move now. Let's just see how that goes with presence.
Oh, right. Nine.
The complication is going to be a very inconvenient thing falls off your body that DI Pettigrew will have in his possession.
I'll mark a mask to avoid that complication.
It was going to be a hand, so maybe Miss Blakely didn't quite. Maybe there was some oversight going on. You can mark a mask though. I'm curious about your angle, though. How do you what are the words you use to apply the information from him?
Yeah, so we're in the dark, and and I've told him, I've had a good look at the corpse. But perhaps it would be best if you just told me the details of your investigation thus far, and then I can tell you what I observed that might aid.
Good. He says, well, yes, Doctor, I like your approach. I'm glad that my particular philosophy of forensic inquiry is starting to resonate with you. That's wonderful. Since you asked, details, yes. Well, how about this for a detail, Doctor? There is a certain address in town where someone has been seen skulking about inside, but is never seen coming or going. This was brought to our attention, of course, because people, well, are a bit of hysterics about this Sally No-Face matter. And I would have easily been able to dismiss it, if not for the fact that it makes you wonder. How can there be apparent activity in a place, but no one ever sees the person entering or leaving that place? It is odd. And indeed, when I called upon this house, no one answered. And again, it was confirmed to me that no one was seen entering or exiting that day. Now, if I was a dastardly killer trying to escape the long arm of Scotland Yard, I would want a way, a secret network perhaps, a way of getting in and out of places without being seen. And so I would find that very interesting. Very interesting indeed. And furthermore, the details, Doctor, reveal to me that our Miss Yarborough had some matter on her clothing, some organic matter that indicates that either she or someone near her around the time of her death was somewhere underground. That is how my mind works, Dr. Gastrell. It is a marvel, and I am so happy it is in service to our queen.
The lights start to come back to life, first on the far side of the room, and then nearer and nearer and nearer to the exit that some left some time ago.
Very good. And we'll just say back as you're waiting on some, Dr. Gastrell is back there with you, Miss Blakely, and he says, so what of the matter at Kilburn Abbey? Have you all come to any conclusions about the strange activities going on over there?
Quite honestly, up until just a few moments ago, I'd forgotten all about it.
Oh, better not tell Mr. Graves. Don't worry, mum's the word.
I do think we should probably prioritize that situation, though. It does seem to have raised its head, so to speak.
He says, yes, it's an interesting story indeed. It's kind of remarkable that we've managed to keep it out of the papers. A girl walled up inside an abbey, her body perfectly preserved. Strange business, strange business.
Walled up, you say?
Yes.
That was
a detail that you must have missed.
Yeah, Blakely doesn't really know much about this situation. They put her in the walls.
Yes, yes. Well, I, there was a girl. She was found in the walls of the abbey, and well, the brothers at the abbey believe that some sort of evil spirit was trapped in there with her.
Goodness, and Blakely actually does look a little bothered by this.
Yeah.
In the walls alive. They just, ugh.
Well, no, she wasn't alive. She was quite dead, but you
Ah.
see, her body should have been very, very decomposed, but it wasn't. It was a, well, it's a remarkably good condition. It is, in fact, another one of the subjects I'm going to be speaking on at the Academy in a couple of days. Like I said, many, many interesting things going on in this city right now.
Absolutely true. And I suppose you best be off to go explore those things. And you will not speak of any of this, I assume.
Yeah, well, I will be very publicly in 2 days, but
Yes, but not of this situation and us being here right
no,
now.
no, of course not, of course not. Hargrave House will always have my discretion, fear not. Ah, there's some now. And at that point, we'll just cut the scene and go to the dusk.
What clues should we write down for that scene?
Let's see. You got for Sally No Face, right?
Yes.
You got the Nerium oleander plant, and then you got the Sally might be using tunnels to move through the city.
Okay.
And you also have an address to a townhouse as well, where
yes.
Sally might be your lair. So yeah.
Right. And then I left behind something inconvenient, but not as bad
Just
as
a finger.
a hand.
Just a finger.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I even like the idea of a little cut of D.I. Pettigrew picking up the finger and going, the details.
Right. Just as somebody disappeared out of the room he was in.
Good.
Did I capture all of the clues that we got in?
Yes, you have the peacock, you have the smells. I think that was everything for the camera, right? Very good, very good. So dusk. Taking a look at things. Blakely, you can probably clear marked by the Demon of Kilburn Abbey since it's related to your appearance. As long as you don't mind scarring your reflection to do so, but I'll leave it up to you.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave it because I think it'll make it fun when we try
I
to
think so too.
get this situation dealt with in the night phase.
Let's talk about Hargrave House. Today for Hargrave House, we're going to let's do the map room. The room is littered with maps of the city of England, of the world, and some of them are highly unusual. Name one of the maps and describe why it's so strange.
Oh, I think in honor of the Between Season 4, it's a map of the terrain of Mars.
Ah, good. Yeah.
In showing the canals and the various ancient sites in surprising amount of detail.
Does it say on it pre-Venusian invasion?
One of the maps is actually folded origami style as a pyramid, And if you try to unfold it like one flap at a time to unfold the pyramid, you'll see different geometric shapes, not written, but branded into this knot paper. And the lines are a combination of ley lines and paths leading in and out of the astral plane.
There's, well, you could call it a map, I suppose, but it's more like an anatomy picture artist or illustration, a map of the cardiovascular system. But when you look closely, there seems to be extra limbs and extra pieces that aren't supposed to be there in a standard human body.
There is a roll, and there a series of drawings within the roll, labeled Chance Farrell, the sightless cartographer, and there's a small gong and a way to ring it nearby. And if you roll them out, they're very strange, like just kind of patterns of things, but they're on very thin paper. And if you start to overlap them, you start to get the sense of a shape of a particular landscape of ravines and mountain ranges that were what it seemed to this man did when he would go from spot to spot and ring his gong and listen and mark what he could see. And it's like an echo pattern. And if you have enough of them layered one over top of each other, you have a very accurate representation of a small area of ravines or mountains.
What is everyone doing tonight, Mr. Graves?
Well, now we've been invited to the Society Obscura. I really wanted to go and deal with the demon, but I don't know whether I should do that without Artemis or, decline that invitation now that it's been made. I am still trying to just make my mind up there.
We'll check in with Artemis.
I'm like, the first thing that came to my mind when I heard that was bastard. I want to do the same thing. I want to go and take advantage of this invitation, but we need to deal with the Abbey. No, I mean, we got to deal with the Abbey. We got to get that off. We got to get that off our plate. I mean, the demon is obviously, wanting to be recognized by everybody in Hargrave House, so we got to take care of it. So we'll do it.
Maybe we can send an excuse to the Society Obscura and request another time.
Maybe Blakely finds out.
Well, yeah, so Blakely, what would you do today?
That would be cute.
I'm thinking Blakely is going to go deal with the Demon of Kilburn Abbey because it threatened her, and now she's not happy about that.
In the grand irony, maybe Sum is the one who doesn't go to the Abbey.
I think that might be, and I'd like to see if you all want to try and answer a question about Sally No Face, if we think that we can.
Interesting.
Can we? Do we have enough?
Sure.
You have enough to attempt any of them, but it just depends on which one you're thinking. What's your theory, David?
I think I know where the killer is hiding. I'd love to have a theory for somebody, if somebody thinks they know how the killer is choosing their victims. But I think I only know where the killer is hiding. And I can tell you the theory so I think that this address with the tunnels is where the person is hiding, and it's a dead giveaway because this plant is cultivated near there. The plant, if properly extracted and tended, can yield the rouge and yield a perfume. So
yeah, maybe there's like a hothouse nearby or some kind of.
It's like in the back, is a little hothouse where this is cultivated. And so it's like a dead giveaway. Like all of those things are pointing here. It doesn't account for Clara Yarborough, but it gives us 4 clues and a flat roll on that.
I would like say that maybe just to make it like really sharp, maybe this townhouse is actually like a kind of maybe it belongs to the university's like botany department or something. And
that would be cool.
They might have contracts with like various perfume makers and things, you know, for various plants that are cultivated. And Nerium oleander, because it's so poisonous, it's in this controlled environment, right? Like you can't just no one can just go grow it, right? So.
And she did say that she was a scientist, so very, very likely that she's.
That's true. She said she was a scientist
associated with, and that's why she has things that can be made or extracted from plant matter.
Why might there be tunnels attached to that place?
It's additional growing ground, like for other obscure things,
like mushrooms and things.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but they also
mushrooms underground.
They're also just convenient connectors to other university places.
Oh, interesting. Okay,
I like the storage as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very intriguing. Very intriguing. I feel like we're getting, and so this university, there's like a connection to like maybe cosmetics companies and things, which is, you know, which explains some of these other like things that appeared in the body and in the apartment.
Oh, the tunnels are because for easy moving things, but because it gets really cold and such in London, colder than the plants can manage, so they need to have the controlled environment needs to be maintained.
Makes sense.
Right. Yeah, got to have lots of tunnels to cart them down there. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Temperature stability, yeah.
You got 4 clues very easily accounted for. The 5th one is Clara Yarborough was invited to the exhibit. This really just comes down to what might Clara Yarborough's, like, it may not even apply, like, because it's not clear what, like, that may not answer the question of the location, right?
It could be that Clara Yarborough's place is like across the street. It's within sight distance. So,
or maybe
Sally was watching. Oh, that could be.
She was a washerwoman. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, she had access to the card from somebody. It didn't necessarily have to go to her, but because she knew.
Oh yeah, maybe she got the card in. If she's a washerwoman, maybe she was washing somebody's clothes and like the card had been left in an inside pocket or something, and she got curious,
and then that caused Sally to follow up when she showed up at the exhibit. Okay, that's good.
Because if you can't have people you didn't invite show up to the exhibit, because that's not.
But for the location purpose, I think it makes sense to say that Clara probably did work for the university, did work specifically for the people who worked at this place, doing their washing, which kind of connects it all up. So that's really good. Yeah, I love it. It's a great theory. You've got +1 on a roll. David, take it away.
All right. 10. It
will be a relatively straightforward apprehension. Although you are going into her lair, so it might be less straightforward than it would be normally, but still not too bad.
So if people are dealing with the demon, I kind of love the idea that some's not there, because that just feels ironic and interesting. So maybe some has determined to go deal with Sally No Face.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
but I think with Obert by himself last season, so it's like somebody's gonna be daring, I guess.
Yeah,
very good. Well, if there's no revisions, then do we have any Janus Mass prompts? I think I'm owed one by Miss Everly Gray, right?
Yes.
I owe you one as well.
Okay, if you're ready for it, do it now, or you can wait till the dawn.
Yeah. So. No, I can do it now.
What's the prompt?
Narrate a flashback to your early teenage years where you tried to live a normal life, but a family member put you in your place. It was at a country visit culminating in a hunt ball at the nearby estate of Lord Inverness. Their concept of a hunt made me curious, But it was also a surreptitious invitation for me and my brother into the local marriage market. Our former wearer raised a few eyebrows, scandalized a few dowagers, but it didn't matter. They were made to contain a few surprises just for us. I managed to attract the attention of two of the most promising young heirs at the ball. Hunting with words and gestures was a heady experience. Unfortunately, they thought me easy prey later during an evening walk. A non-consensual 2-on-1, as it were. But I dissuaded them with a trap I set earlier in the evening, leaving them flailing in horse shit and their pants sliced down to their ankles. My brother came upon me not long after, staying in the shadows as I watched my handiwork from a nearby tree. You had to know these whelps were not suitable for the family. I had to escape my own gaggle of potential mates and their entreaties. Everly Greys do not meet partners in the conventional manner. I had to find out for myself. You may be the older and stronger of us, but I am still the older and wiser of us too. And if it wasn't for an Everly transgression generations ago, the chosen would not be chosen, and our family would be free. Those fools out there would never be able to face what's coming for us, especially in a few years. The signs have started. You heard the ravens calling out in the dark. And the rumble of thunder with no cloud in the sky during the day. Yes, I have. The phase judgment has started to appear. And this is where my brother and I wordlessly gathered up our sleeves to compare. Under the knife sheaths, my right forearm began to show under the skin. The beginning of an inscription of an ancient symbol, and on his left forearm, the beginning of its mirror image.
Thank you. Sam, are you ready?
I think that I want to mark the Mask of Beauty. So I'll put it off till after at dawn, so everybody can have an opportunity to think about it.
Oh yeah, let me remind everyone what the Mask of Beauty is. Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they felt truly beautiful.
1 minute ago.
Yes, exactly. A time. Exactly.
That's not fair. That's too easy for her.
In Miss Blakely's case, it's not a flashback. Fantastic. Okay, good. Well, with that said, the unseen. Going for the unseen today. Let's do Perched at the Rookery. That is on the 4th row, first one. Decrepit tenements lean against one another like drunks, broken windows covered by rotting boards and old newspapers decrying the moral decline of the city. Alleys cramped, dark, and full of oozing filth. This rookery is publicly despised by the well-heeled of London as they drive the unfortunate into it, and the source of much salacious interest in private. The first one will be David, then Rob, then Amanda, and then paint the scene as everyone. Let's take a 5-minute break. We'll come back and do the night phase. What a night phase it's going to be. But first, we are perched in the rookery. David, a squad of peelers come in mob-handed to drag off a bunch of the usual suspects for a robbery charge. What do we see of those who get picked up in the raid? What do the peelers use to justify their brutality?
So there's a bunch of people who are just kind of sitting about. Some of them are playing games, some of them are, just being quiet. And then this group of people come around the corner, come around the bend, and point. There they are, get them, and like run over. And all of these people who are sitting and just being quiet, like look up confused as their collars are getting snatched and as they're getting dragged kind of down further down the street without being given the opportunity to stand up or anything. And one of them gets flopped over onto his stomach, and the contents of his pockets spill out, and there's like a file in one of them. And one of the peelers looks at it and points down, see, look, they've got weapons. And they all just start like really roughing him even more.
Some. The others have left for Kilburn Abbey. You're at Hargrave House. And I think you're getting ready to leave the map room to go about your evening. When you notice something just set aside in the room, Hargrave House is filled with stuff just casually strewn everywhere. It appears to be a large painting or portrait or mirror or something in a frame wrapped in paper. And there's all kinds of stuff like that in Hargrave House, but this one stands out because there is a little gift tag on it that says, to Dr. Noble, a chimera in celebration of your chimera. What do you do? This is apparently something that was delivered to Dr. Noble years ago and never got opened by anyone.
Okay, so it's not like a new edition.
No, it's been there for ages. You probably walked past it 20 times. So you just now notice the card.
Oh, I see. I'll like take a look through kind of one of the corners. I don't think I have time for all of this right now, but I want to see like what
It's
it
a
is.
painting
Maybe
of some sort.
Okay. I think I quickly lift it with some ease, and like shuffle it towards my personal quarters. Like I'm gonna put it there before I leave.
You could peel the paper off easily as you do so, or as you're moving it up there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once I get it there, I might take a moment to unwrap it. But...
It's a painting of a lion, a snake, and a goat in sexual congress with each other. Goat being mounted by lion, the snake weaving in and out of orifices.
Some like looks at it for a moment and then like turns it towards the wall, like, and then he's getting ready to go.
That was a mastermind clue, though, by the way. She'll note it for you. Meanwhile, the carriage has dropped you all off at Kilburn Abbey. You'll be happy to hear that there are not brothers rolling about in the grass in the courtyard, or the abbot saying the Lord's Prayer or any other prayer in an attempt to banish a demon. It's quite quiet. You might notice, you don't even, well, I should say, you don't notice anyone in the belfry ready to jump either. Miss Everly Gray. Everything seems pretty calm. Miss Everly Gray, what do you do?
She pulls out her staves and sees if they are glowing.
Remind me what is the case if they glow.
Basically, the demon is very close.
Oh, they're glowing. Then
Yeah.
yes.
And so when she sees that, she's actually going to do a percussive effect on it to create a sound, and then she's going to be calling out to the demon. So she basically claps them together 3 times, and then like does another gesture with another percussive effect. And as she's doing this, the sound gets louder and louder, and then she calls out. I'm guessing we're in the abbey at this point.
You're in the courtyard. I would probably need to remind you all the actual opportunity you have unlocked is you have to use innocence or piety as a bait and then do a ritual to banish the demon.
Sorry, which one of us is the most innocent and
Yeah,
pious?
this is what I was wondering about. Like, how is
Yeah,
that
like we
happening?
actually need some here.
Where's some when you need
he's
him?
the innocent, yeah.
I mean, I was hoping to see if Brother Elijah was about. He is
Okay, I'll take that.
about
Brother
the most pious
Elijah-
person I know. Yeah.
Yeah, Brother Elijah might actually. Brother Elijah will come out into the courtyard. He says, I thought that was you I saw from the window. Miss Everly Gray, is tonight the night?
This is. And I don't want to put you in danger. And this is where she comes up to him and will hold his hands with the stave still in her hands. You unfortunately have a very important part to play, and I will do my best to keep you protected. In fact, she re-harnesses her staves for a second, takes off her holy symbol, and will place it around his neck. This will make sure that you are acknowledged by my weapons to keep you as safe as I possibly can.
Oh my goodness, are you always this dramatic?
Are you always this annoying? This is not the time, Blakely.
Ladies,
We'll talk
please,
about
we
your
have a
thinking
sense-
lines later.
We have a serious matter to deal with here. There's no time for bickering.
Bickering.
Brother Elijah says, so what must we do?
You and I, will go into the abbey, and I will challenge the demon if my colleague, Mr. Graves here, can perform a ritual to make sure that it is banished once I take care of its more physical form.
I need a little time to prepare, but I believe I can do that.
That I can give you.
You see Mother Superior Eudora. She comes out of the abbey wearing her long black habit, and she glides toward you all as if her feet were a few inches off the ground. You hear the habit being dragged against the stones. And she says, I'm afraid the abbot is indisposed. How can I help you this evening?
I'm sure he's still nursing his knee from where I put a knife in it a few days ago. Joining us for our demon banishing party?
She says, yes, perhaps I am. And then she rotates to face you, Miss Blakely, and says, I was wondering when you might make your way here, dear.
I can't remember if Blakely has met
You've never met
the
her.
Mother Superior. I don't think so. Yeah. And I suppose you know of me from...
It's the demon, dear.
I have been
I
aware of you for a
know
very long
that.
time.
Miss Everly Gray. Goodness.
Mother Superior Eudora says, I think it would be best, and indeed in the interest of everyone in this abbey, if you all just turned away now. Except for you, Miss Blakely. I would love for you to stay just a little bit longer.
Yes, yes, I am quite popular. This is not the first time people wanted me to stay around. However, I believe we have some unfinished business here, and I think that my colleagues and I are going to just get on with it.
And she says, very well. And then she glides backwards towards the entrance to the abbey, goes inside, and the doors just slam shut. And we shall now go back to the rookery. Rob, two families share a damp garret, a single room with rainwater leaking in through the rotted shingles. As they huddle together for warmth against the cold night air, what little touches of homeliness do we see that show they are making the best of their situation?
On the stove is a boiling kettle, and they actually have somehow a rather nice tea service, a teapot and several cups. Some are a little chipped and damaged, but it's decent quality china, and to keep warm, they are brewing a big pot of tea and sharing it around between them, the children and the adults together, enjoying this warming drink that they can serve in something approaching fine style.
Very good. The address of the townhouse that belongs to the university, it is actually right across the street from the Society Obscura, though you don't have any reason to know that because you haven't been looking into that matter. But when you arrive in the neighborhood, the townhouse you're going to is, there are no lights lit coming from the inside. But the Society Obscura townhouse is ablaze with activity. Indeed, you see people in the front courtyard teetering about on high-heeled slippers and with white powdered wigs and long coats, velvet coats. And you hear, good sir, what are you doing here?
Looking for your mistress.
You see the Dapper Boy. He is dressed dapperly, but a little bit like the what's that famous painting, the boy in the blue painting, the blue boy painting, like that, like kind of Little Lord Fauntleroy kind of dress, and the houseboy Periwinkle is with him, who's also dressed in kind of sort of Louis XIV period wear. And he says, good sir, my employer is currently consulting with another client. You've just missed her.
She's not here.
Shall I tell her you stopped by?
That won't be necessary. And some kind of moves closer to continue the conversation, but he trips and stumbles. The contents of his pockets spill on the ground. Oh, bother. And he
Which are?
There's a small stuffed taxidermy bird, feebly put back together, a book of poetry, a few bits of twine and needle, and got some wax, this kind of thing. Oh, bother. And he's trying to push it all back into his pockets, and then he realizes he's missing one of his fingers. Do you see where it went? Do you spot it?
And Periwinkle's instincts are to help. And so he goes and he tries to pick you up or help you up. But then when he sort of like touches your skin, sees the sort of oily fluids that sort of just seep from your body from time to time, he kind of withdraws his small, delicate hand covered with lace, and he says, "Oh," and he kind of just steps back, and he sees your hand missing a finger and all this other stuff, and he just says, I think you probably shouldn't be here right now."
That's no problem. Folks tend to think I shouldn't be anywhere, anytime. Good evening, young master. After looking around and not being able to find the finger, I'll disappear behind the house that I intend to take my position in, since it seems the mistress is away.
Indeed. Back at the Abbey. You're once again in the courtyard. The demon is ready for you. What do you do?
Well, Miss Everly Grey, why don't you bang your little sticks and see if it'll open the doors?
That is the intention.
Brother Elijah says, "And what role do I play in all this?"
You, my dear, are the bait.
Blunt as ever, Miss Blakely. Now, Artemis, give me some time here. I can prepare the vanishing ritual. But I will need to circle the building 3 times counterclockwise and 3 times clockwise. Can you give me that time?
It will be my pleasure. And so she motions to Brother Elijah to walk with her to the door of the Abbey, and before opening it in the way that Artemis likes to open things, she'll look at Brother Elijah and say, "What's your favorite hymn, Brother Elijah?"
He begins singing it. I don't know any hymns, so
That's
just
fine.
imagine
No, it's fine.
sung
Basically,
with a clear, high voice.
take comfort in that hymn. Believe in all the words that you are singing, and I will need you to continue singing no matter what happens. If you must, keep holding on to my holy symbol and keep singing your words to your God.
I like this as a night move to draw the demon out. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
It's going to strike him down, and I won't be able to protect him, and like a dark future will happen for me.
It's worse than that, because I think that will all happen, and you will be on the back foot against the demon.
Yep.
Let's have the roll with its sensitivity.
Can I use, or is it only if I use the actual weapons themselves? Can I use Hunter's Life for this?
It reads hereditary weapon, twin, blah, blah. Name the weapon. When you use it in it says physical combat. with
Okay, all right.
supernatural
No,
creatures.
just making sure. I mean, I'm probably going to need that in reserve, so. All right, so this one is sensitivity, right?
If you have something else from your quarters, that'd be helpful by all means. Use it, but you have a holy symbol. The holy symbol you put on his neck, is that maybe?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's it. You have that in your personal quarters. You could mark that.
Okay, great. So advantage?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. 8.
You will succeed. You will draw the demon out. I think the complication is that Brother Elijah, you have the demon at bay, and the ritual can be performed, but Brother Elijah is not going to survive.
Mask. I will use another one.
Okay. Full success. Miss Blakely, the demon does not F around at all. You see a nun in the belfry who looks like the artist. She even calls you out by name. She says, what did the artist call you? Did the artist call you Beryl or something else?
Yeah. Yeah.
She says,
That's why Blakely doesn't like people calling her Beryl.
she says, Beryl, Beryl, look at me. Look at me.
And Blakely looks up slowly because she knows what she's going to see.
And she does the omen thing again where she says, this is for you. This is all for you. And
Blakely squeezes her eyes shut so she doesn't have to watch this part.
you just see a streak of black and white as she falls to the ground and explodes on the cobbles. Please scar your reflection. Also, before I forget, I wanted you to mark an O on your hunt, Ms. Everly Gray, because of the way you used like deception against the Society Obscura, trying to be all like subterfuge about it. But Mr. Graves, what do you do when you see this? What's happening right now?
I think Graves is already trying to concentrate on the ritual he's about to perform. So he is striding purposefully around the Abbey building itself. And I think his eyes are half closed and he's chanting something under his breath.
The entities that exist in your peripheral vision always, the ones that have always been there, they are pawing at you and trying to pull you away. And they're whispering things. No, you belong to us. You belong to us. You are ours. How do you try to resist their pull?
Just thinking to myself that I'm not giving myself to this entity in the Abbey. I'm trying to banish it. And I need their help to do it. And that will not preclude any designs they may have toward me in the future.
Make the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you can't convince them?
That the demon is going to know what I'm trying to do and prevent me from completing the ritual.
It's worse than that. The demon will call in some favors with your demons or your entities and get you removed from the scene. please go ahead and roll the night move with sensitivity.
Let me see if I have any personal quarters items that may help me here, because I do not want to screw this one up. I have the ready supply of smelling salts. I think part of the ritual is Graves getting himself into the right state of mind, taking any, excluding any outside disturbances, and that even includes olfactory distractions. So he's using these smelling salts as he has them cupped in his hand as he's walking around the abbey and chanting under his breath to himself.
Roll with
Advantage.
roll with advantage, yeah, it's for now.
I got a 13.
No, very good.
Two highest dice for a 6 and a 5, and I have a sensitivity of 2.
We'll come back to the scene in a moment.
Oh, I need to mark that thing.
Let's go to the rookery. Amanda, in a lean-to slumped in a reeking alley, a small group of pickpocket urchins divvy up their spoils to buy food. What objects of frivolous wealth have they managed to lift?
They're little, they're skinny, clearly not well-fed children, very dirty, and they're fighting over the little pieces of what poor children would think rich people have. A rusted old cigarette holder. The rich people use those to smoke. It looks very fancy. There's a very clear little marble. Clearly some child in a wealthy neighborhood must have lost it in a game of marbles to a street kid. They're fighting over what is the 1860s England equivalent of a penny. That is also just dirty and tarnished. Things that most people would not even notice are treasures to these kids.
Some.
It was still a penny. Yes, thank you. Thanks, Rob.
Or a half penny. That was a thing.
Some around back of Sally's lair. You see what appears to be it's almost like a exterior cellar door in the ground. Probably leads to the tunnels, or at least connects to those tunnels. And you hear scratching coming from the other side of the cellar door. And a shaking. It's wrapped up with a chain. What do you do?
It might seem a little cold-hearted, but I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. I'm trying to leave everything as is until Sally shows herself so I can get the jump on her.
Meanwhile, at the Abbey, you manage, Mr. Graves, to hold off the entities, your entities, for now. You get a bonus as well. We'll think about that in a moment. What happens?
While Artemis is battling the demon in its physical form, Graves is circling Widdershins and whatever the opposite of that is, which I can't remember. It's the kind of witchy terms for clockwise and counterclockwise, and attempting to banish the demon from this place. It takes him some amount of time, but after he's done, he stands before the door and looks up at where it's standing and opens his eyes, and a smile touches his face as he knows that the ritual is complete and the demon is now unable to remain in this place.
Well, so let's back up a little bit. How do you deal with the entities trying to draw you away from the Abbey?
My entities?
Yeah.
So I'm effectively bargaining that they helped me.
Oh, I see. Oh, good.
I will owe them.
That's good. Let's not get to the point of banishing the demon yet, but I like that approach. That's good. So you're counter offering. Okay, good. I like that. Miss Blakely, what do? You see the nun, her body crushed on the stones, but face down.
She has to know. She's got to know if this is still a person that looks like her artist or not. Just a little bit of a sick fascination with figuring this out. So Blakely walks up to the body and with her riding crop turns the face to see if she can tell who this is.
You look and you don't recognize the person.
Blakely sort of, you can see physically the relief, the tension coming out of her shoulders. It's bad enough that Artemis looks so much like the artist. You don't need this happening as well. And I think without even meaning to, Blakely looks around at the Abbey, looking at the walls, thinking about how this nun fell, thinking about how this demon possessed this child and the child being trapped in those walls for years and years and years, and thinking about her own immortality and how it would feel to be trapped. And I think Blakely's kind of having a little mini panic attack.
I like it. Take the condition, the walls. Meanwhile, Brother Elijah, his song has gotten the demon's attention. The two doors swing open. Brother Elijah convulses and falls back into your arms, Miss Everly Gray. His eyes roll to the back of his head and foam begins spurting out of his mouth. The demon has him and is going to make quick work of him in your arms. But the demon is at bay.
Trapped in Brother Elijah's body?
Yes.
Or that was a mistake on your part. She lays Brother Elijah's body on the nearest pew. She claps her staves 3 times, just as was written from her honored ancestor from so long ago, creating a percussive sound to drive into the demon's physical ears of Brother Elijah. And then she presses both staves on either side of Brother Elijah's head. And the glow gets brighter, and the holy symbol on Brother Elijah glows along with the staves.
And we'll come back and let Mr. Graves finish the demon off when we return. from the rookery. Everyone, please describe someone we see making their way back to their home through the cramped alleys and the desperation that has led them here.
We see an older man, and he is dressed in the tattered remains of a military uniform. And we see that he has one of his sleeves hangs empty by his side, and he's holding in his hand a kind of cheap pewter tankard with a few coins rattling around in the bottom of it. He's returning to his home after spending the day begging for change from passers-by. And he hopes he has enough to pay for his night's rest in this awful building.
There's a student, or a composer of sorts, for what paper that he can glean from other sources or bits of music that he has peeking out from his pocket. This is the only place that he can go for some sort of shelter, and his hands are shaking as he's trying to clutch some of the music in his hands as he makes his way back to his dingy place, just a place to be, to sleep, to sort of have some sort of shelter. And he's thinking of the chorus that he was teaching earlier in the day for less than pennies, just to survive. And he's remembering the hymn that they were trying to learn, and singing in a cracked voice the hymn that Brother Elijah sang.
There's a young couple hiding in the shadows of one of the alley. They are engaged in an act that might be romantic in a different situation, but just seems desperate in this one. After some time, they separate from each other and compose themselves, pull their outfits back on properly, and with a kiss, they are separated. The young woman, she makes her way through these alleys. As she's going, she's pulling items of clothing out of a bag, putting it on, a long black dress, like a robe. As she skitters through the alleys, making her way home, she stops just short of a convent and pulls on a nun's habit, tucking in her messed up hair, fanning herself so as not to look too flushed, and walks in, back home.
There's a sightless man making his way down the alleys and streets. He doesn't seem like his mind is well. Anytime anybody makes a noise anywhere near him, he flinches and stops for a second, then tries to shush them, cocks his head and claps, and then seems to follow the noise. Like somehow he's doing this to find his way to wherever he's going. And then eventually he finds a place that's in a basement, and he settles himself down to sleep. He wraps his coat and his shirt, he just peels them up from his body and just wraps them around his head. And it finally goes to sleep.
Some. You can, probably just have to force your way into the back door. That's easy enough, especially with your strength. And you are in, as described, it's a sort of like, there are like plant specimens all over the place, you know, like rows of like tables with like soil potters, you know, with rows of various plants and flowers and things. Yeah. But it's nighttime. And the light is dim. You have a little bit of ambient light coming in. You're not alone. There is someone in the house with you. You can hear them, sense them. What do you do?
I'll try and get closer and then try and talk them out.
What do you say?
It's all right. You can come out. There's no reason to fear what is inevitable.
The person says, you know, I've seen many terrible things in my years of service. Dark things, things I'd soon forget. But nothing compares to the festering wound that is London. The pampered peer, cruelly oblivious to his privilege. The accountant clawing his way up that calamitous ladder, kicking down those beneath him, the lost souls in the rookery. All are equal in my eyes. You, even you, are equal in my eyes. You are all merely different symptoms of the same rot. This city is the true heart of darkness, a teeming, gibbering mass, crying out for blessed release. And I intend to give it that release.
What have you done?
Time will reveal all. I knew your mother, you know.
I do not have a mother.
Oh, but you did. And she loved you very, very much.
This will not work for you. You cannot gain power over me in this way.
Oh, you poor creature. Don't intend to gain power over you. I intend to release your soul.
You assume such a thing is possible.
Admiral Flagg steps into the moonlight more fully. Says, I'm almost done with Sally. You can have her when her work is finished. And then he walks out the back door. Meanwhile, at the Abbey, Graves, how do you dispatch the demon? Or what does it look like? I don't need a roll since you got a 13 on your last one.
As Graves completes his circuit of the Abbey, he comes to a stop in front of the group and opens his eyes fully and looks at the Mother Superior. Entity, I charge you to go from this place. You are banished, never to return, to bother these people no more. Now, be gone.
Mads, because this is kind of an out of character consideration. Brother Elijah, the demon leaving his body is violent. And Brother Elijah will not survive. Oh, he will survive because you aren't a mask. How do you make sure he survives?
She has, to secure the demon, she has her weapons against Brother Elijah's head, like to kind of support it. And then the holy symbol is like kind of creating a field around his body as well to try to keep it secure. And then she will do her best to almost embrace him, like as he's like reclining there, to try to keep his body together. And then as the demon is leaving, then she can see some of the contortions that the violence of the banishing is causing. And then she's using her field medicine skills to be able to kind of move things back into place as things are happening to his body. She's trying to keep him as secure as possible and just make sure that at the very least it's like his physical form can recover. If he wants, it'll be a lot of talking to later for his mental and emotional state, but...
Miss Blakely, you're over there having a panic attack in the corner and everyone is rightfully distracted and not paying attention to that. But Mother Superior Eudora, newly released from the demon's thrall, finds you.
I think Blakely is like wide-eyed and breathing very hard, panting almost, just sweating.
She says, my dear, calm down. It's been a very, very trying and torturous evening for us all.
Blakely turns towards Mother Superior, and she hasn't been paying attention because she has been distracted with her own situation. And she gets up on her feet, and with this the anxiety that is coursing through her, giving her a little bit extra strength and quick reaction, shoves Mother Superior as hard as she can. Get away from me, demon.
Mother Superior Eudora gathers herself and she says, my dear, I've dealt with much harder cases than you. When the time is right, come to the convent. I have a special place for you.
All Blakely can think of is this special place and imagining being walled up by this what was her name? Eudora?
Eudora, yeah.
Yeah,
Because we know Eudora is part of some kind of like ancient like order or whatever, right? Yeah.
Yeah, she Blakely stumbles away from Mother Superior and out of the abbey onto a patch of grass, on her hands and knees, just heaving with sick and anxiety. And you can see the tear marks on her cheeks as she tries to catch her breath, not even caring if people can see her right now.
That concludes the night phase. The Demon of Kilburn Abbey was resolved. We have rewards. I shall take a photo of the rewards and clip them for you, or paste them for you right here. For people watching the video, the corpse that was walled up in the abbey, you add it to your personal quarters, and it can be used by any hunter for the demonic insight custom move, but you all didn't pursue that one, so that's not available. A desecrated Bible, add it to your personal quarters, or just 3 of the normal, a memento from the investigations. Who wants what?
Memento, please.
I think Graves is all about the desecrated Bible. He, he got rid of the demon, but in order to do so, he made a bargain with something perhaps even worse. He didn't banish his demon by calling on good. So yeah, unless anyone else desperately wants it, I think I would like Desecrated Bible.
Crawford can tell me what Artemis's memento is.
I'm marking one of the orphan boxes.
I think I'm going to get a memento, and I would like some to decide what it is. We see you, Rob.
Yeah, no, my light's gone out again. I'm not moving enough.
We still see you.
Your memento, Miss Blakely, is a single imperfect black pearl.
I can put it with my giant flawless pearl.
The contrast will make the flawless one even more beautiful.
I love it.
Your memento, Artemis, is a nun's wimple. The head covering that they wear. Perhaps bloodstained.
Don't know where that came from. All right, great.
The thing that will help me as I try and get closer to this family from the recently resolved threat is we see a priest in a confessional. And coming from the other side, we hear the creaking of a kneeler straining under a heavy weight, and hear the voice, "Oh, Father, bless me, for I have sinned. What is it, my child?" "Father, I told someone a lie. I said I did not have a mother. This is not true." "Well, that's all right, my son. Just say a brief prayer, and that really should do it. Are you sure there's not something more burdening you?" "Well, Father, I suppose there is. You see, there is this family that I desperately long to help. And I wonder what you could tell me that would help them." And what follows is a story of this family and the tragedy that has befallen them. It's so beautiful and well told that the one who should take the confession is weeping and begins confessing all of the knowledge he has of this family to the one who is supposed to be the confessor.
Nice. I also want to note here for the hunt, I think because you used Brother Elijah as bait and Brother Elijah suffered violence at the hands of the demon, even though he didn't die, mark an X on the hunt. And if that's it for rewards, Dawn questions are next. Let's go to Miss Blakely. Of course, you don't have any more XP to get, but I am curious, did you get an Echo in the Night?
But kind of. I was playing with the idea that when Sam had all of those things that he was kind of rifling through, a similar type thing that these urchins were rifling through their
I
little
like that.
treasures.
Yeah, I think that's
But
actually pretty good. The little treasures thing. Yeah, I'm into that. I think that's good. Did you secretly show a vulnerable side to someone? Oh, to
yeah, I
Mother
think
Sister Eudora, right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Ornate over the top erotic experience? I don't think that happened.
Not yet.
So not in the Abbey, hopefully.
I mean,
although they've been through a lot lately, so who knows. And also everyone's getting credit for the first two questions, right? Because a question was answered and a threat was resolved. Mr. Graves, did you experience an Echo in the Night?
I did not.
Did you have a face-to-face encounter with a dark entity? Yes, you did.
Yes.
Did you perform a ritual? Yes, you did. You had a good XP day.
Mhm.
Let's go to Sum. Did you experience an Echo in the Night?
Yes, I think so. Things spilling out of pockets.
Yes, very good. Were you extra gentle with someone or something because you know how strong you are?
I don't know. I was pretty polite in the mortuary and just kind of chatting with somebody rather than being violent, but I don't know if that's quite there.
No, but I do think you get the last one, which is, did you openly walk among people during the day? I think that all came out really nicely in the scene, especially with the Dr. Kestrel, at least. Certainly not with D.I. Pettigrew. Miss Everly Gray, did you experience an Echo in the Night?
Yeah, pretty heavy-handed. I mean, I mentioned Brother Elijah's hymn.
Right, yeah. Did you revel in the thrill of the hunt?
I mean, I would say so. I mean, like I was ready. I was
Yeah,
ready
you were
determined
in it.
to go for
Yeah,
that demon.
You were
so.
locked in and ready to go. Did you tell someone why their plans were poorly made?
I so wanted to, but no, not yet.
Enough. And let's keep going with Janice Mask prompts. Everyone owes Mask of Beauty, or the Mask of Beauty, but I think there might be other things as well.
Yeah, I owe one. I owe a Mask of the Past, as well as Mask of Beauty.
Whoever wants to get at it, go for it.
I have. Hold on. Actually, I can do Mask of Beauty and my flashback, like in a row. So, Mask of Beauty. Earlier in the evening, Artemis goes to her family codex, whispers something, and makes some symbols on the cover to unlock the arcane lock, and then pulls out the postcard that she's been using as a bookmark with the painted magpie on the cover. I mean, on the back. She remembers a time in the beginning of her monster hunting career when she was younger, less scars, more enthusiastic, and she saved a young family from stray reavers. It was like, not that far away from the family home. And the young daughter, no more than about 6, was so wide-eyed and so grateful. She presented Artemis with a picture she drew, a remarkable rendering of Artemis herself, surrounded by magpies, of all things. And Artemis comments, "You will be a phenomenal artist one day, if this is any indication. I had an ancestress once who was purported to be this good early on. Some of her work still hangs in the family gallery. This is amazing."
"I am no artist. I am the princess. And I declare you Knight of the Magpies in my court,"
she says, brandishing her brush like a sword. I think the queen is the only one that can grant knighthoods, but, because she can see the little girl's face fall. I think in this special circumstance, she will allow this.
"Kneel, then, my beautiful subject, and go forth and protect the world."
And Artemis kneels, smiling, accepting the spattering of paint as a blessing of knighthood, looking at this wondrous child who is now able to have a childhood and a life, and thinking herself all the more beautiful for having saved this life. And she thinks upon it, remembering this little girl who is now a young lady, and remembering this talented little girl, and is still able to remember her Knight of the Magpies. And then Mask of the Past. Narrate a flashback to the first time a family member grieved they could never give you more. I remember my great-uncle, maternal great-uncle, Alberic, our weapons master, talking. Not only was he able to teach us to become proficient at our weapons, he also had that inscrutable skill of being able to take a weapon he'd never experienced before and discern its properties and efficiently use it. He said, before the curse fully came upon us, "I can teach you everything I know. I can teach you how to learn everything you need to learn. What I cannot do is prepare you in your head or heart for what you will have to face." And I look at him. How did Aunt Gwendolyn manage? I mean, I never did hear. No one would tell us. What can we do? And I remember him shifting through his weapons racks, not looking back at me. Each hunter deals with it differently. I lost the love of my life when she went on her final hunt for the beast. She would not tell me what she was going to do or how she would do it, almost as if she was trying to spare me, protect me. Unfortunately, that means I have no wisdom or insight to offer, and perhaps that is a condition of the judgment.
Fabulous. Let's go next for the Mask of Beauty. Or even the other mask that I think some owns.
We see a somewhat younger Mr. Graves. He is in a public house, a pub. He has under his arm a leather satchel with papers bulging out of it, and he's with a group of friends, enjoying a drink, joking, laughing. It's a crowded and lively environment. Judging by the accents of the people around, we're somewhere in Scotland. And Mr. Graves is at this time a student at the university in Edinburgh. And as the evening goes on, Mr. Graves notices a woman watching him from across the room. She is sitting accompanied by two other young ladies, but this one in particular seems to be watching him every time he glances in her direction. Their eyes meet. And toward the end of the evening, she approaches him and whispers something in his ear. And a smile comes to his face. And he holds out his arm, and she puts hers through it, and they leave together. Mr. Graves feeling very full of himself. And the two friends that were with the woman stand up shortly afterwards and follow them out. This was how Mr. Graves found the coven, or was found by.
Fantastic.
I can do Blakely's Mask of Beauty. Mask of Beauty, is that what it's called? Yeah. And I joked, oh, it's just 5 minutes ago, but I'm going to spin it a bit and tell a flashback of when Blakely first realized that being beautiful is very, very useful. We see a busy market street in London, not the London we know now, but a much, much older London. We see a gaggle of poor children, skinny, raggedy clothes. One of them is Blakely. She's maybe 3 years old. She stands out even then as a very much a beauty, especially compared to these other children who are much more plain. And these children are running around the marketplace looking for, dropped food, dropped goods, maybe a little treasure too, something that they can't get at the orphanage that they live in. Blakely, though, she's not running around excited like these other kids. She's standing in a corner of the market, watching people go to and fro, waiting for somebody with something interesting, something she would like. And she's a little girl by herself. That's noticeable enough. An older gentleman, very well dressed, with a cane, walks up to her. "Why, my beautiful child, what are you doing here alone?" And she looks up at this man who's wearing a very, very fancy outfit. And her eyes start to water, they get big, the tears start to flow. "Oh, mister, I'm just very hungry, you see. I don't get fed at home. My parents are horrible. They're just terrible people. And, well, I'm hoping that some kind soul would be gracious enough to buy me some bread? You, sir, could you spare a little? And this man looks down at her and looks at this beautiful child. She looks like a painting. And he says, of course. Here. And he reaches into his pocket and brings out a whole handful of coin and puts it into her little waiting hands. Yes, of course, a beautiful child like you. You should want for nothing. Here. Take this, buy as many loaves of bread as you could possibly get. This is quite atrocious what your parents are putting you through. Let me find us an authority figure to a Bobby of some sorts. We can get to the bottom of this. Make sure that you're safe. And he turns around to scan the crowd, looking for, a cop or whatever is the police in this time. But when he turns back, she's gone with his coin.
Fantastic, thank you. Son, do you care to tell us the last time you felt truly beautiful?
Yeah. So all is darkness until for the very first time, there's a gasp. Oh my, it's working. It's working. Pope. Yes, Mom. Quickly, gather some clothes from the other room. Quickly now. Of course, Ma'am. What am I? You, oh my, you belong to me. You are beautiful. You are mine. Here, come here. I'll show you what you are. And eyes opening, getting used to light and shape. And a reflection starts to materialize as a looking glass is brought in front of him. But before it comes into focus, the scene cuts, because from that moment on, some never felt more beautiful.
Fantastic. Did you have another jazz mask as well?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Is that it for jazz mask then? Sounds like it. In that case, thank you everyone. These were all lovely.
I do have to describe some stuff about the cathedral.
Yes.
Yeah, I got one from last week and one from today. We can make it nice and quick. We see Blakely crying and heaving on the grass outside the abbey, and the camera sort of pans up to the London skyline, and there's a ringing, a very sort of like a cacophony of sound, of bells that just sound off, and you could see the hair on the back of people's necks standing up as these bells ring. The camera pans to the cathedral, quick pan, and the bells in the tower. Thank you. Dissonance was the word I was looking for. Thank you, Mads. In the bell tower are ringing, and the sound is just completely dissonant. It is this horrible, it's a ringing, but it's a horrible ringing that is just uncomfortable to listen to. The camera pans down into the cathedral itself. It's dark. There's nobody there tonight. Still some candles lit around in case people do show up. The camera goes to the side door, which we have seen before. It leads down to the wine cellar that Blakely made her home for quite some time. As the camera goes down the curved steps, the bottom of the steps, there's a brick wall. Doesn't match the rest of the stone in the stairwell. It's newer somehow. And as the bells ring, as Blakely is sobbing on the lawn, a crack starts to form in that brick wall.
Fantastic. Stars and wishes. I'll start today. Stars for all those Janus Mask prompts just now. Those were really great. I feel like we learned so much about the characters, and it's very, very fun to see. Star for this like new vulnerability on Miss Blakely. I like that a lot. It's really good. And star for the yeah, the Janus Mask were just so good. I really enjoyed the Society Obscura was really fun. I am looking forward to seeing that place some more. It's a fun location to do investigations in, so I hope we get a chance to return to that pretty soon. And yeah, I think those are my stars for now.
I thought everyone's Janus masks there at the end were just great. I'm always interested to understand more about Blakely and where she's from. I think that's just such an intriguing thread. And David's one with the creation of some was just great too. And yeah, lots of I really enjoyed the setting of the Society Obscura. I felt like once I got Graves there, I didn't quite know what to do with him in that place. So like my wish for next time is to like have my game running a bit better at that point personally. But the setting and the characters there were really, really fun. I really loved the moment when Flagg showed up. That was awesome. I loved the voice Jason does for him, and he's always such an interesting presence. And yeah, I'm like, part of me wants to get on with the mastermind clues and like get to encounter him, and part of me wants to not, so that he lingers around for so much longer. Yeah, the Abbey stuff was fun. It's nice to wrap up a threat. I really enjoyed, Jason, what a way you pushed me to look at Graves's relationship with the entities that are after him, and I think that like brought out something that I really
For that whole thread,
enjoyed.
I was really trying to emphasize like the fact that like what would it be like for a person who has demonic entities in their everyday life showing up when this new kid in town is here in London? You know, like what would that be like? How would that affect things? Like what would the, so yeah.
And I think it was really fun that like effectively Graves is selling his soul in order to do these things. Yeah, looking forward to more of that, and looking forward to doing more. I just did that one mask today, which I enjoyed, and I kind of planned that idea out previously when we first started that threat. But yeah, and looking forward to just doing some more masks and bringing out some more of Graves's background as we go forward.
I want to get a star for to Mads for spending, like without hesitation, spending Janus Mask to save Brother Elijah. I thought that was great. It was good in the moment. It felt right in the moment. And also I just like that there's something very satisfying as the keeper being able to like get someone to mark a Janus Mask without it being enforced by dice or conditions, right? Just to be able to say the right words that will get them to mark it on their own. So yeah.
Oh no, I was definitely going to keep him alive, because again, I mean, having done Mask of Sacrilege and then knowing that, well, again, meta knowing that this is going to be what happens if she fucks up. No, we're not going to let any innocent die on my watch. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed well, pretty much everything. Star again to David, of course, because of like his mortician impersonation, and then using his Titan's Ember to keep going with that deception. I mean, that was a great scene. That was wonderful. I mean, not that we really want to see D.I. Pettigrew, but I mean, it's kind of funny when he comes out.
I love what
you
D.I.
have fun
Pettigrew's
when you do.
insane.
You have
Yeah.
so much fun when you do him. It's great. So
in my mind, all of the between is like D.I. Pettigrew's fan fiction. Like he's going home and like writing all this,
Oh,
you know,
God.
so.
Well, he's thinking he's the protagonist of the story with all the details, but he does get them wrong. So, no, it's great. I mean, it's a wonderful injection of the spirit of I guess a normie like trying to deal with us, dealing with the supernatural. So,
He's a very fun character because he's like his presence like really increases like the dramatic irony of the situation, right? Like,
sure.
and I think it's what makes him so enjoyable to insert in a scene because he's so oblivious and
a man who cannot see the trees nor the forest for the leaves.
Yeah,
exactly.
Precisely. Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
it's kind of like, well, I mean, like it's the trope of like, for like murder mysteries and something like that. You've got the detective or detectives, you've got like the sidekick character, and then like you've got the bumbling inspector who, what do you think is really happening?
Yeah,
here?
and if I'm being honest, he's probably a little bit like lighter in tone than the game would like normally want. But like, I don't know, it always feels like the right moment when he shows up.
Yeah.
It always feels
No,
like
no,
he
no.
should be here right now.
You don't. I mean, you don't break our tone. I mean, to be honest, it's almost like a good contrast when he does show up, because then when we start getting into some of the serious stuff, it's like you kind of need that to break up how bad it's going to get later. And then always your Admiral Flagg creeps us the hell out. So yeah, and I don't know if this is a star or what, but I mean. Yeah, I thought I grieved over Dr. Noble. I thought I was over it. I really did. And it's like, thanks guys, this episode was really rough. Thanks. Okay. So, that's it for me.
I like the sort of like implication that like, because Flagg was Hargrave House's neighbor when Dr. Noble was alive. Like they moved in around that time, or he moved in before Dr. Noble died. But I also just like the implication that like he knew Dr. Noble and kind of knew what Dr. Noble was maybe up to a little bit, or at least that's what he's suggesting. Whether it's true or not, that's the story he's telling, which I think is intriguing.
I mean, I'm just going to interject something here, and like, you can call, like, say, no, it's not canon. It's not even like, it has anything to do with it. But I did have a mask from last season that didn't fit with any of Dr. Noble's story, but it had something to do with Dr. Noble's father having something to do with Flagg and being
That's
able
what I'm saying.
to...
There's like it feels like there was a history there, right? Because he sent her a gift, right? Like he knew what she was doing, sent her a gift. He made a little joke about it, like the chimera and the chimera, right? Like, just it's interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, like, there's that connection there. So I mean, like, there was some kind of suspicion of like somebody knew what was going on, and so it could have just easily been Flagg with the naval connections, or just like the weirdness of it all. So
yeah, definitely. Stars and wishes.
I have some stars. That whole scene with D.I. Pettigrew and Some was awesome. The details. It was so much fun. So stars for Jason and David for that, because that was really, really fun to watch. I really liked Baz when you said it's the demon, dear, and it was so perfectly condescending. It was so good. And it just gets right under Blakely's skin just so easily. I really liked the ritual that Graves came up with, or that Rob came up with and Graves did. It was very like kind of simple, but it made sense, surrounding the whole abbey rather than just one spot, kind of making the whole abbey into a focus point of power. And I liked having to that you had to bargain with the dark entities for it. I think that's really cool, and it's definitely going to come back and haunt you. I throw out another star for Jason for, there was a few times in this where I wasn't really sure what Blakely would do. I'm like, probably nothing. And that's not how you want, it's not fun for a game where not going to do anything, but you just like moved with that really quick. So I thank you for that. That was really great.
I really enjoyed, I said it already, but I just really enjoyed the like vulnerability of Blakely this session. You know, I think like when a character is unexpectedly vulnerable, it makes you like kind of fall in love with that character more. So
yeah, I'm kind of thinking like as this cathedral is, things are going bad with the cathedral, things go bad with Blakely too. That's sort of a tit for tat thing.
yeah, because you're kind of like functionally at like 24 marks or something now, right?
Yeah.
The
Oh yeah.
quite degraded. Yeah.
Things are bad.
Yeah.
Well, star for you, Amanda, for like being able to show us that, because I mean, like, you know, you did mention that this is kind of like now it's like the downward slide, because now that you've stopped it from, it's like, or you've reset it, but not completely, so it's not back to its brilliant self. It's like, you know, now it's just going to keep going downhill all the way from here. And it's like now you're starting to show the cracks literally in Blakely. And it's like, it's really good. It's really interesting to watch. And I mean, Blakely's good at Blakely. We hate her for it, but yet this is very different from season 1, and I love it.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking like mechanically speaking, once I marked it was a advancement, I think. Yeah, once I marked the advancement that I got to uncheck all of the boxes for the cathedral, I kind of, in my brain, that kind of is like the point of no return for Blakely. Like there is no happy thing going on here. I mean, there's no happy ending for Blakely anyway.
I also think it's interesting because you don't have any particular because you don't have any particular like motivations as far as the dawn questions go anymore, because you're at max advancements. I think it's interesting that you're in a weird sense, you're almost like freed up, right? Like you're kind of freed up to take the character of wherever you want to take it, you know, which I think is really fascinating. So yeah, but like you've like broken free of the trope, if you wish. You know? Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, my stars, I really do like what's going on with Blakely character wise. As this season is progressing, we're seeing this, the softer, more vulnerable side even in previous sessions, but this one like really saw it. And I don't know, it feels like she's like just off of her balance. Like what's going on now is keeping her on her heels, but she's like, and she's not used to being in that kind of position. She's not used to being up against the ropes, but she is for the first time ever. And it's like, what's going to happen? But also it makes her more relatable in a lot of ways. So it's like, oh no, something bad might happen. Like, I don't want anything bad to happen. It's when an invincible character becomes vincible or, you know, mortal. And it's like, what, like, where is it going to go from here? It's super intriguing. So I'm excited about that. I really like how the ritual went down. It's so different than the way that like it was designed to answer the question. And I think my wish is like to see how that complicates things in the future, because it seemed like Graves had to rely on a darker power than the ritual that would have done this, except for the difficulties that he encountered and the deal that he made.
I have a feeling that Mother Superior Eudora almost feels like secret mastermind, like in a way, right? Like there's like something going on there. And even though she's not a threat or anything, but almost in the way that Julius was like this very prominent, like a side character with a slightly nefarious side character, or he is in a lot of my campaigns. I feel like Eudora is kind of becoming that in a way, because we've seen characters like praying and being counseled, and you know, like there's like her presence is there, right? The way she like took Blakely's violent outburst in stride and basically said like, I've dealt with worse than you, little girl, right? Like just that, you know, it's an interesting character for sure. And I wonder if that's the through line for all of that, right? But I don't know, we'll see.
If you want to bring her back, I'd add a wish that Graves gets to discuss theology with Mother Superior. That would be fun
in some way, right? You never know, right? She's got all kinds of. She clearly has like a secret history, right? Which I think.
Yeah, you just yeah, you just found this blasphemous Bible or whatever. Who's to say
Right.
that didn't belong to her?
Yeah,
Exactly,
maybe.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all of that's very interesting, and like love it, stars on it, and then like wishes for it. I really am loving how Mads is playing this kind of foil to Blakely, this condescending thing that's very interesting right now with what's going on with Blakely and how she's up against the ropes. Like that dynamic is really, really cool and very interesting, like season 2 content. But more like direct star, I think the characterizations that you just did in our Janice mass scenes were amazing. That was so good. The young person knighting, that was beautiful. The weapons master, like very well done. So well done for that.
Yeah, there's a whole like Everly Gray prequel series ready to be made,
Yeah.
right?
I want to
Yeah,
see more
there's-
of the family. Yeah.
Yeah, they're spinning up the spin-off series for this 100%.
I will
I
be
wanna-
very honest. I mean, like, these masks are like, very important, and I was like, totally raring to go for doing them because, I mean, to feed you hints, Jason, about what's coming for the Beast. I was trying to be very careful about like how I was presenting it. So, the next one, if I remember correctly, hold on, just the curiosity. Oh yeah, that one's gonna be a fun one. So, yeah. Yeah, there's a plan.
I want to hear what happened to the brother, or see him show up if he is still around. That would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And then for stars for the keeping and connecting our Dapper Boy with our Dapper Boy right across the threats. That was amazing. Love that. Love the Omen callback to horrify Blakely with a callback to her cathedral. All that was so good. And then Flagg in Sally's spot. I am wondering, like, and I don't know if that's a wish or just a question, like, is Sally part of the mastermind now, or do we not know?
That wish is about to be fulfilled momentarily.
Very good.
Are there any other stars or wishes?
Wishes. I want to see the Mother Superior come back. I think she was really fun, and she has that weird, is she evil? Is she not evil? Feel to her. So I really like that sort of gray character where we don't really know where she stands.
I think it's just she has like free range to walk around the abbey as she wants, and you actually stop seeing the abbot at a certain point. Like, where the hell's he been? Like, it's just been her, I think that's all very interesting. It feels like there's a weird like there's a lot of like story going on at the abbey that we're not seeing, right?
Yeah.
Which I think is really fascinating.
Is she like Opus Dei or something? She's like a
like there's
special
something
investigator.
going on. Yeah, it's super intriguing. I don't know yet what it all means, but I'm gonna think about it. Fabulous.
Other wish is I'm excited to see what our next threat's going to be, because we've gone through all of the season 1 threats now, or we have them all. They've all been introduced.
Not the Coven.
Yes, the specialized ones aren't. Yeah.
I assume we'll see the Coven at some point, though. Sounds like.
Oh yeah.
Rob's got that teed up. So.
Yeah, I think my only wish as well is Graves teaming up with Sam again, or Graves hanging out with Blakely. That hasn't happened yet. And more of Graves and Artemis. I think they make a really intriguing team. That there's this demon hunter and this kind of person who's making deals with demons in order to achieve ostensibly good ends.
I know it's too late because it's like I would have had the opportunity to use it in this particular battle, but I wanted to relate, and I don't if you allow me to, Jason, but I wanted to relate like a flashback, because the specific ancestor for the hereditary weapon is tied into the demons, or demon. So it's real quick. It's not like long or anything, but I want to make a mention of this because it kind of has to do with like the team up between Artemis and Graves. So
Maybe just a good next session thing, maybe. Or
yeah, that's fine. I mean, but
sessions,
yeah, it's because it has to do specifically with banishing demons. So
yeah. Well, I think we can pick it up next time for sure.
yep.
Any other stars or wishes? Okay. Well, then let us go back to London briefly. Very deep below London, deep underground, a deep place that people don't even know about generally. A chamber, very large, wide. With 100 wooden chairs arranged in a huge circle, vast circle. Tall wooden chairs, gilded, gilt. And sitting in each chair is a man or a woman dressed in Louis XIV costume. Velvets, lace, corsets. They are each sitting with their hands on the arms of the chair, these 100 people in a huge, enormous circle facing each other. Their faces are wrapped with bandages, seeping blood, and their powdered wigs have been placed right atop that. And they each sit there with their hands quavering. They cannot move. Something holds them in the chair. And you just hear them. And Admiral Flagg says, well, his voice echoing in this vast underground place, is the work nearly complete? Oh yes, we're very, very close now. I have to confess, Admiral Flagg, that I found this to be a most exhilarating project. I appreciate that you, well, admire not only my surgery skills, but you admire me as an artist as well. It is very, very gratifying work, I assure you. Yes, well, as long as he recognized them, that's the important part. Mrs. Brathwaite had the right idea, but her ambitions were too low. I'm not going for a bit of mummery. And you start to hear this loud, heavy, mechanical sound as the floor begins to part between all these people, this vast circle. The floor begins to part and open up, and it's like sunlight coming up from below. And that concludes the session. Thank you all so much. I'll see you next week.